Right, Steve, lovely to meet up with you once again and do some further work on your swing. I thought this was a great session. I really enjoyed this. I thought we really got into some nice details about what was going on during your downswing. The overall move that you're making now is much better. We did talk a little bit about you overemphasising the turn, so that's something that hopefully you can take away with you. You know, don't worry too much about turning on the way back as your left shoulder works down, as you demonstrated yourself on video. Once that left shoulder works down and the left tilt starts going in, the shoulders turn anyway. So whilst we do want the shoulders to turn, we maybe don't need to emphasise that move quite as much. Having said that, the bulk of the session was working predominantly on your change of direction and trying to tighten up your delivery position. What we were seeing was, from the top, the club would get thrown away from us very quickly. So that 90-degree angle between the left arm and the shaft was getting dumped very early in the piece, widening the radius of the swing, so the distance from the sweet spot to the left shoulder increasing, and creating a delivery position where the butt of the club is too far outside the right thigh. When we looked at our model swing, what we were talking about with the elite ball striker was that as the change of direction occurs, the arms are brought down by the action of the lower body, and the wrist hinge actually sort of increases. There's more of a loading of the wrists as that player changes direction. And we talked about, you know, that a lot of players out there are trying to do that, and no matter how hard you try to do that, it's not going to happen if you don't understand the sequence of moves that's required. So some players can do it, some players can't. Now, that doesn't mean you can't learn to do it, but a lot of people misinterpret how that lag is created, and we can see at P6, when the shaft's parallel with the ground, how much more advanced the butt of the club is. The hands are in line with the right thigh, as opposed to outside the right thigh. So the first thing we did was we talked about, you know, how we can create a little bit more lag on the way down. So what we did was we put a towel behind the golf ball, about 10 inches behind, sticking up about 2 inches in the air. And all you've got to do now is miss it on the way back and miss it on the way down. When you did that, your delivery position tightened up a fraction. So the left arm now is a little bit more advanced. Not as much as we would want it, but it's a little bit more advanced. The left knee is a little bit more forward than it would be normally. But more importantly, on this initial drill, that move from the top became a little bit tidier. So as we changed direction, we didn't throw the angles away quite as fast. So we're 90 degrees left arm to shaft at the top, and when the shaft's parallel, the left arm's parallel with the ground, we've maintained that 90-degree relationship. So we've calmed down the transition simply by putting that towel behind. So left arm parallel, that 90-degree relationship has become a 100-degree relationship initially, whereas now we're seeing a little bit of a change in regards to that change of direction. The next thing we did was we started to talk about shortening the backswing, and how when you shorten the backswing, you tend to go looking for more of a sort or different sources of power. And one of the sources of power you can use is creating better leverage. So when you shorten a player's backswing, the left arm doesn't travel as far, obviously, but the sweet spot can travel just as far if the player hinges the wrist more. And you can see there's a little bit more loading of the wrists at the top. And then as you change direction here, there's a considerable change now in the position that we see midway down. So at P5, when the left arm's parallel with the floor, we've gone from an uncocking of the wrists to a maintaining of the angles, to a slight increase in the angles, or narrowing of the arc, if you will. So we've gone from a widening of the radius very early in the downswing to a maintaining the radius top right, to a tightening of the radius bottom left. If we then play those swings down to the delivery position, Ignore Grant in the middle. And we stop each swing when the shaft is parallel with the ground. We saw a very slight change. Top right. And we've seen a much more considerable change in regards to the overall look at P6 by shortening the arm swing. So the shortening of the backswing is encouraging us to use the wrists in a little bit of a different manner, and you can also start to see that the left knee is starting to move a little bit more forward during the downswing than it was at the start of your session. So you're starting to use the floor a little bit differently. What we then talked about was doing this yourself, obviously trying to shorten the backswing. I've given you an example of how you can use the canes to achieve that, but we also want something that you can do by yourself more consistently out in the range. So what we said was swing to the top of your backswing and stop, and when you get there you stop for a count of 3 and then you start down. As you start down, I want you to put the emphasis on the left knee, and we want to feel like the first move to initiate your swing is to move the left knee down and forward. See, as you do that, the shaft is not getting pulled out, and the arms are a little bit more advanced at P6. So we've got a little bit more of what we see with Grant weight above into your normal swing. Why does that happen when you stop at the top? My own observations are that, you know, when you get to the top and stop, and you're trying to hit the ball, so that's the key thing here. We're not just getting to the top, stopping and making a swing. We're getting to the top, stopping, and then trying to hit a golf ball. When you go from a standing start trying to hit a golf ball, the only way you can do it is if you sequence your moves more efficiently. You haven't got any rhythm or momentum to sort of carry you through, so it's got to be a more efficient change of direction. When you did that, and when you cast the club less from the top, you start to see an improvement in regards to the condition of the arms through the hit. So you can see as your lesson has progressed, the arms have started to straighten out because there's less of a fear of hitting the ground behind the ball. Great session, great progression. You can work, you know, the feelings in. Shortening the backswing was a great exercise. That gave you the best angles coming into the golf ball, and then the swinging to the top and stopping was also very, very good and had a good effect. In regards to your driver, keep working the same pieces in. Keep working on the changes that we made in the previous session, but attach much more importance to making centered contact. As you can see when we work with the face tape, a lot of your contacts with driver are coming low down and out the heel, and the reason that's happening partly is because when we pull the driver out the bag, we pay very little attention to quality of strike. We've got a big headed club, the ball's on a tee, and we're trying to smash it down the fairway as far as we can. So rather than concentrating on making a solid contact like we would with an 8 or a 9 iron, we just start wailing away trying to hit it as far as we can. I would put more emphasis on quality of strike. Be honest with yourself. When you see the ball curve, did it curve because you came across it, or did it curve because it came out the heel of the golf club? I would hazard a guess that most of the really bad drives that you get don't come out the centre of the club face. Good luck with it. I look forward to working with you in November, and I'll forward some December dates to you over the next week or two. Well done.